He did describe that there were approximately 20 occasions over the course of their nearly decade-long business relationship where, when one of them called the other, that Hunter Biden would ask his father to say hello to whomever he was at dinner. He said there were some times when it was friends and sometimes when it was potential business partners or business partners. But the witness was unequivocal and stated very clearly that they never discussed any business on that phone conversations. There were niceties and there was a hello and we talked about the weather or whatever it was, but it was never any business. And I think it's really important to remember that during this time period that we're talking about here, Beau Biden, Hunter Biden's brother and President Biden's son, became very ill with cancer and died. That was in the spring of 2015. And the witness described in vivid detail about how devastating that was to both Hunter Biden and to Joe Biden, and how their communications picked up dramatically in the aftermath, because Joe Biden was calling his son to check on him, and Hunter Biden was calling his dad to check on him. It had nothing to do with business, and that is the sum and substance of what the testimony was.
This is Democratic Congressman Daniel Goldman explaining what transpired during a closed-door interview testimony from Devin Archer before the House Oversight Committee. Archer is a former business partner of Hunter Biden, and as you heard, it was obviously a major failure for House Republicans who were relying on this key witness to justify their never-ending made-up Hunter Biden controversies. Republicans had been hyping up this witness for weeks, insisting that Archer would provide damning evidence against not only Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden in the deposition. However, according to Goldman, who was the only member to actually attend the entire deposition, Archer testified that he never heard Hunter discuss any business dealings with his father. Goldman said that, according to Archer, Hunter and Joe had only casual conversations on speakerphone and that none of them involved any business matters. Archer was consistent in his testimony, according to Goldman, and contradicted claims by Republican Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer and Jim Jordan, who had hyped Archer as this smoking gun witness who would expose Joe Biden's involvement in his son's affairs. What this testimony confirms is that Republicans, surprise, surprise, have repeatedly lied and exaggerated about the evidence they have in their Hunter Biden investigations, and it just goes to show how desperate they are to find something where there's nothing.
Yeah, Brianna, no one disputes that Hunter Biden and Devin Archer were business associates and that the two of them did engage in various foreign dealings, but House Republicans have insisted that Archer could provide a smoking gun piece of evidence that connects the president to his son's foreign dealings. And we're learning now, after one Democratic member of the House Oversight Committee emerged from this 3-hour meeting now, it's still going on, but he emerged and said, look, this testimony has offered no proof connecting the president to his son's foreign dealings. Congressman Dan Goldman, the Democrat on the committee, did say that, Archer testified that Hunter and his son, Joe Biden, did speak every day, that at times Hunter Biden would be in a setting where there would be business partners present, but not once, according to Goldman, did these dealings ever come up. So, Jim Jordan, a Republican member of the committee, also has left the interview. Republicans seem like they're done with their questioning. Jordan didn't have a lot to say. He called the meeting productive, but Goldman, by comparison, spoke to reporters at length.
The fact that Jim Jordan, of all people, one of the most camera-obsessed members of Congress, didn't have a single thing to say after a multiple hours-long hearing of this supposed smoking gun witness really does tell you everything you need to know. After the hearing, Goldman tweeted, "I just left the interview of Devin Archer, and I was the only member who stayed the whole time. These are the facts. Archer testified that Joe Biden never discussed any business with Hunter and his associates. 2, there was no bribe from Burisma to Joe or Hunter. This investigation has uncovered zero evidence connected to President Biden. In fact, the evidence is clear that President Biden had nothing to do with Hunter's businesses. The American people are tired of this wild goose chase, and I urge Representative James Comer to close it immediately." Of course, it'll be a cold day in hell before Republicans close an investigation of Hunter Biden. But again, their silence in response to the very deposition that they hyped up beforehand really does speak for itself. There was one Republican who actually said something afterwards, and it was just as revealing as Jim Jordan's silence. Here's Andy Biggs.
Can you talk about the bribe at all? The $5 million bribe?
He didn't know anything about it.
He didn't know anything about that?
No. It was in 23. He didn't know anything about that.
Do you think today's testimony made it more likely that the president should be impeached?
I think we should do an impeachment inquiry. It's a different animal, but I think we need to do an inquiry.
Let me repeat that if you didn't quite catch it. A reporter asked, did the witness talk about the bribe at all? Biggs responded reluctantly, and with his back to the camera, he didn't know anything about that, which only further backs up Goldman's detailing of what was said during the interview. What Republicans are attempting to do right now is the same thing they did with Benghazi and Hillary's emails and every other dead horse they've beaten ad nauseum. It is an attempt to muddy the waters in order to gaslight voters as to what's going on. They know that their cult leader, Donald Trump, is in serious legal jeopardy with multiple criminal indictments and more on the way. They know that he committed these crimes and that there's a good chance that his only hope of remaining a free man is by winning the 2024 presidential election. And so knowing all of this, they are working on his behalf by throwing as many things at the wall as possible, even if it results in situations like these where their prized witness debunks the very basis of their own conspiracy theories. But their hope is that with enough right-wing disinformation in their media apparatus, they can confuse voters who are busy trying to live their lives and put food on the table. Their hope is that enough low-information voters throw up their hands and say, well, you know what? Both sides are equally bad and they have their own legal issues, thereby neutralizing Trump's criminal indictments. It's a strategy as cynical as it is disgusting, but one that they absolutely rely on. And the fact is that it works. Republicans know that their supporters operate within a hermetically sealed media ecosystem. And so while they're free to make sweeping, unsubstantiated claims, when the fact check inevitably comes along, it never gets covered. And so as far as the Republican base is concerned, all the lies they heard were stone-cold facts. Because it's not about the truth, it is about the narrative. And when you have a political party with no shame, they will gladly lie to their own supporters if it means it'll help them politically. Now, as far as Congress is concerned, this whole interminable Hunter Biden saga is the perfect example of why it's so important for Democrats to flip the House. Remember, when Democrats were in power, they passed a historic infrastructure bill whose effects will be felt for decades to come. They recovered the economy with the American Rescue Plan. They passed the CHIPS Act, which will create tens of millions of American jobs and will reduce our supply chain reliance on China. They oversaw the fastest job growth in U.S. history and record low unemployment. They passed the biggest climate investment in history and allowed Medicare to finally negotiate lower drug prices. They reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. They passed the first gun safety legislation in 3 decades. They passed the PACT Act for veterans health care despite Republican opposition. They oversaw the largest reduction in the deficit in history. They codified marriage equality for same-sex and interracial couples into federal law, all beyond popular and all in just 2 years. Meanwhile, with Republicans in power, they're wasting taxpayer dollars on a never-ending obsession with a private citizen, even going so far as to show nude photos of that private citizen at an official congressional hearing. And when they aren't wasting time on that, they're actively voting to hurt Americans. They voted to overturn Biden's student loan debt forgiveness plan and retroactively charge you interest on your paused payments. They voted to add $114 billion to the deficit to make it easier for rich people to cheat on their taxes. They voted for federal abortion restrictions. They wasted everybody's time by holding the economy hostage, threatening economic recession for no reason other than to hurt Biden. And they passed a useless censure resolution against Adam Schiff for the crime of investigating Trump's corruption. If you can tell me which one of those actually helps people, I'm all ears. So yes, these investigations by Republicans are obviously stupid and pointless, but we should not forget that they serve a broader goal for Republicans. It's not about the boring minutia of some conjured up bribery scandal. It's about confusing voters in order to help Donald Trump, all for the express purpose of taking power to pass a MAGA agenda that enriches their donors at the expense of everyone else. So don't lose sight of what's really at stake here if Republicans succeed with their campaign of lies against the Bidens. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.